Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene, and today I'm going to talk about, well, it's an interesting phenomenon, which is, well, you're seeing this ever since, well, people seem to forget, a lot of people seem to forget that the reason that the Israeli army, IDF, went into Gaza is because Hamas broke into Israel and massacred 1,200 people and took another 250 people hostage. And the Israelis, people seem to have a lot of problems. Some people that the Israelis don't want that to happen again. They are through with what they used to call mowing the grass, which is that there would be an attack and then Israel would respond enough to dissuade Hamas from attacking for a while, but then they would build up their forces again and then attack again later, and then Israel would have to attack again later, just like mowing your lawn. You know, you mow it and then it grows and then you have to mow it again. They're not doing that anymore. They're going in and they are going to end the threat of Hamas once and for all. We're not going to talk about that today, though. That is not the main subject. What is the main subject is because of that, there are a lot of people that hate Israel anyhow, and let's be frank, hate Jews, and because, well, we know we are handing, well, not me, but a lot of the world is holding Israel to a standard to which no other country has ever been held. They have I mean, when, in what war did the United States or any other country call the civilians on the other side on their cell phones to warn them that an attack was coming, which is also the same as warning the enemy so that they can scatter and go underground? In Hamas's case, they have the tunnels underground, given warning before Israel attacks. But apparently whatever Israel does, it's not enough. So they get all this criticism. But what is interesting, well, this is a saying that, well, let me tell you what happened. A couple of things. One will be the main subject, the subject in the title. But also, Germany has just ordered, well, Germany, it's not just Germany, but they ordered Israel's Arrow anti-missile defense system, because that's one of the things they're criticizing the war. This is where a little hypocrisy comes in, is that these countries are criticizing Israel for fighting in Gaza, but they are falling all over themselves to buy Israeli weapons. The Israeli weapon system is booming. And you know what else is booming, by the way? I should mention this. This could be a whole other vlog. The Israeli stock market it is soaring ever since October 7th. The idea, well, what Hamas was hoping, what other people, this BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions program, what it's all about is to economically punish Israel. But the Israeli economy is booming, especially in the as the stock market would indicate, and especially the weapons system. People are buying. Well, there's this saying about Israel that Israel is like the mistress that everybody runs to, but nobody wants to be seen in public with. That's basically what it is. Quietly a number of these countries, European, we're talking about Europe really, and we're talking about Scandinavia, publicly criticizing Israel, but behind the scenes doing lots of business with Israel. Now, the exceptions, which is related to what we're talking about today, is the Abraham Accords. Now, I'm not saying there's been no criticism of Israel from, say, Bahrain and the Emirates, but there has been very, very little compared to other countries. And the economic relations that were established with the Abraham Accords, for which Trump deserves that alone should have gotten him, should get him the Nobel Peace Prize. I've mentioned this in the past that if you watch this vlog, you know I criticize Trump often, and I will in the future, but this is one thing where he really deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. But it's really interesting. You're seeing all these college students in the United States with their keffiyehs, you know, and marching around and I hope I didn't jar anybody when I just knocked my microphone there for a second. The marching around and Palestine will be free from the usual globalizing intifada, which means just kill Jews, kill all of them, all over the world. That's what it means. But that's another track not to get off on today. The thing is just the irony that you have these stupid kids, useful idiots, marching on the college campuses, and then you have in the actual Middle East, you have these countries establishing relations with Israel. You have Saudi Arabia. It's clear they want to establish relations. They would love to join the Abraham Accords, but they have what they call the Arab Street. They don't want to, piss off the the Abdul on the street, man on the street. So they're saying, well, there has to be a pathway to a Palestinian state. That is not going to happen. So my prediction is not for decades. None of us will live to see a Palestinian state, put it that way. And I include you younger people. You probably would see something situated. They would have to completely change their attitude towards Israel, number one. And number two, you would have to have what happened with Germany and Japan after World War II is completely changed. But in Germany's case, Germany was divided for 40 years, about 40 years before it was finally reunited. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to need a couple of generations of Arabs in Judea and Samaria growing up under a different educational system with a completely different attitude towards Israel, full at least economic relations and trade and investment between the two sides before the Israelis will ever trust them enough to agree to a state. But that, which you don't really need. There are other ways, as Israel says, what they want the Palestinians to have all the powers necessary to govern themselves, but none of the powers to hurt Israel. So you're not talking about a state that could, buy weapons from North Korea, for instance. So that's not going to happen unless the Israelis really grow to trust the Palestinians. But you still see these Abraham Accords. I mentioned the Bahrain, the Emirates, but also they're not a formal member, but Sudan has established relations with Israel, and there's another country slips my mind, and there are others that want to join, and you have, and probably soon will be, but on the other hand, you have these people who hate Israel, and as I say, be frank, hate Jews, and they have this boycott, divestment, sanction policy they're trying to impose on governments. BDS to isolate. They want to isolate Israel economically. As I said, it's apparently not working because Israel is, well, if you really hate Israel, well, don't use a PC. Don't use an Apple computer. Okay, they both have Israeli technology in them, and the Microsoft has offices, for instance, in Israel. They have a big complex in Israel. So you have a lot of work in front of you if you want to completely divest yourself and not use any Israeli products. It'd be very, very hard. And really, if you have an illness, do you really not want? And there's a drug that Teva, that's an Israeli pharmaceutical company, makes that could cure you. Do you really want to stay sick rather than take this Israeli drug? And I'll give you another example. This is a really big one that, as you may know, Iran is having a very big water problem. They have, I think one lake is down to or reservoir is down to 8% of its capacity. There are actually news reports. This is in the Iranian papers, not the American papers, that Tehran the capital may have to be abandoned because of a shortage of water. Now, the reason that is because the country's run by religious zealots, not anybody who knows about anything about how to run a country. And what happened was they wanted more farming, they wanted more immigration, and so they well, they basically drain their aquifers, and it's a big problem for them. Meanwhile, in Israel, I mean, Israel, middle is mostly desert, not all desert, but they have great water conservation um, infrastructure and technology. Do you know that Israel, the population is about 10 times what it was when the state was reestablished in 1948, but they use 10% less water with 10 times the population than they did when Israel was reestablished. That's how good their technology is. And maybe I should show this in a future vlog. You go on the internet or YouTube and you'll find a video of um, Benjamin Netanyahu sitting in his office and pouring himself a nice glass of water and saying, okay, Rand, you have a water problem. We have plenty of water, and here is what we are going to do. And he did it. We are putting our water preservation technology. We are putting it on the internet, all the plans, everything on the internet for free. Iran, all you have to do is download the plans and follow them. But they won't do it. It just as if there's an earthquake, and even for her enemies, if there's an earthquake in an enemy state, Israel is one of the first to offer help if there's an earthquake or some other natural disaster, flooding, whatever. They send people all over the world to help with disasters, and they will do that for an enemy as well as for a friend, because they're because that's what I'm a Jew. That's what we do. But anyways, the real irony is Iran's water system was built and run by, guess who? Israel. The Shah, when Iran was still ruled by the Shah, they were very friendly. There were very friendly relations between Iran and Israel. Israel has nothing against. Israel loves the Iranian people. Everybody, go back your biblical history. It was Cyrus the Great, the Persian. Persia is the forerunner of Iran. And in fact, when I was working, I was a bartender for my college days way back. We had a couple people from Iran, but we referred to them as Persians, that they were Persian students from Iran. So very friendly. It was Cyrus, of course, King Cyrus, who ended the conquered Babylonia, and ended the Babylonian exile of the Jews, and the first exile. The second one was the Romans that continued into from first century BC, basically into, first century AD, I believe, all the way up to 1948. But he freed the Jews to return to Jerusalem, and we've never forgotten it. I have nothing against the Iranian people, nothing at all. It's just these crazy ayatollahs who are the real threat. But the thing is that the Israelis, because of these good relations, Israel built the water. The water system, the water utility for Iran, and ran it. But when the Ayatollahs took over, the Israelis obviously left, and we see the result today. So the obvious solution is, whatever you think of that, that's in the past. It doesn't even really matter. No sense arguing about that. The point is, today, Israel has one of, if not the best, water preservation program. Well, talk about irrigation. Okay, the reason Iran is having this problem is because they just created all these irrigation systems, and just to be able to grow, and they drain the water because they are so inefficient. Meanwhile, in Israel, obviously they would have the same problem. They have something that works. I think they're trying it in India too, but Israel's had it for a while. What they call drip irrigation. Drip irrigation. What it is, you have these little just water. They just drip drops of water, and they're scattered. They're above the plants, and they use GPS, satellite technology. They can spend computers, artificial intelligence. They can spot which plants need water and just give them just the amount of water. That's why it's called drip. Just drip onto these plants just the amount of water that they need. So you don't have these big furrows with just tons of water running through. Iran could have the same thing if she were only willing to work with the Israelis. So now we get to, I guess, a roundabout by China, by way of China. I almost didn't talk about what I wanted to talk today, but I mentioned the Abraham Accord. So now let me put the headline up and give just a quote to what we're talking about today. So here we go. Israel sees momentum in Latin America after Argentina's MILEI officially launches Isaac Accords. With the official launch of the Isaac Accords by Argentina's President Javier Milei, Israel aims to expand its diplomatic and security ties across Latin America, with the initiative designed to promote government cooperation and fight anti-Semitism and terrorism. Milei formally launched the Isaac Accords last week during a meeting in Buenos Aires with Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, who has been on a regional diplomatic tour. Modeled after the Abraham Accords, a series of historic U.S. brokered normalization agreements between Israel and several Arab countries, this new initiative aims to strengthen political, economic, and cultural cooperation between the Jewish state and Latin American governments. The Argentine leader called his country a pioneer alongside the United States in promoting the new framework, emphasizing its role in fostering closer ties between Israel and the region across key strategic fields. So there you go. Those of you who are wanting to isolate Israel, you're not doing a very good job, I'm afraid. As you can see, the Abraham Accords that are expanding Israel's relations with its neighbors in the Middle East now has a counterpart in Latin America, because a lot of these, well, I predict you're going to see a lot of change anyways, because if you don't know, Latin America, all these countries, they were, some of them were out and out socialists. They say Peru, they had very left-wing governments, but they have fallen. Now they've been replaced by we'll call them right-wing, more conservative governments. So the left-wing governments, obviously, were hostile to Israel. The right-wing governments, well, such as Milei. I mean, he's the poster child, I guess, for conservative government. And so he is not only these Isaac Accords, he is going, it's definite. They are definitely doing this. Argentina is going to move its embassy to Jerusalem. So again, you people who hate Israel, you're not doing a very good job of isolating Israel. If that's your intent. You have these Isaac Accords now, and I just mentioned the weapons purchases of all these countries, and because they see the Israeli weapons, obviously, they're battle tested. The people see how effective the Israeli anti-missile system, the Arrow system, was in shooting down rockets, and they have even more. You want there to be some more sales coming, and this is another reason why these countries, Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, they are wasting so much time and money on a useless quest to destroy Israel. And now the way that the situation works now, or was working, is that so you would have Hezbollah and Hamas, not so much anymore, but practically nil. Well, I don't know when the last time there was a rocket fired. Well, there was a couple of rockets. There were a couple of rockets some time ago fired into Israel from Lebanon, fired by Hamas, not by Hezbollah. They're not that stupid, you know. Hamas is that stupid, and which is why they launched the stupid war in the first place. But the way the economics was working is that these rockets would cost like a few $100 to manufacture, but the rockets that shoot them down, such as the Arrow rockets, they would cost $50,000 each, maybe even more, some of them. And so, so you see that the economics, that's costing Israel a lot of money to shoot down a rocket. You know, spend $50,000 to shoot down a $300 rocket, and you see how it hurts the country economically. So if you, well, when Israel just they deployed it for the first time. They just used it. It's going to be fully deployed by the end of this year, actually. So just a couple of weeks, and more next month. But a laser system. They now have the first operational, that a country's actually using operational laser system to shoot down missiles, and they can shoot them down in their launch phase while it's still over the enemy's country. But the main thing is that you run on electricity, and it's a laser, no physical rockets that you have to build and pay a fortune for. It costs them about something like $1 a shot now. So now the economics are reversed. $300 to $1 to shoot down a $300 rocket. And you can be sure the reason I mention this is that you're going to have a lot of interest, I believe, from all these NATO countries and Scandinavian countries and all these other countries. Whatever they say about Israel, I predict they will be lining up to buy that laser system. And I guess that's it. That's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Your comments always welcome in the comment section below the video. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.